So this rich man was at the market and he found this astrologer, and this astrologer said, I have to predict your future. I feel it. You have to come to my house. I make your charts. So this rich man was like, oh, he must feel that in the very near future, I will get very rich. Even more diamonds will come my way, good business opportunities. Okay, let me go with this guy. So he went to sit in this dark room, and this astrologer was predicting his future with his astrology chart. He was looking at the thing like this, at this paper. And the rich man was like, yes, 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 tell me what's happening. Is something good coming? But the man said, actually, do you know for sure that this is your date of birth? And the man said, yes, of course, it's mine. I was very proud. He said, it says that you're going to die today. And this rich man was like, what? You crazy? Give me back my money. You're rubbish. Look at me. I'm so healthy. I'm so rich. Nothing can happen to me. And he left that place. He went home. On his way home, he looked into a dark alley. He came across this dark alley and he looked inside. It was a big figure, with a hunchback. And the moment that he looked, this person, he looked at him too. Very terrifying face, and he recognized this man as the messenger of death. This was back in the days, the messenger of death. And he was like, oh no. So, he ran home. He packed his bags. He thought, no, this prophecy is coming true. So you know what he did? He took a dice and he rolled this dice multiple times. And every number that would come out, he would take that train line and go to some random city. He tried to outrun death. He thought, he cannot catch me if I just, randomly go somewhere. So the whole day he was crossing the whole nation until he ended up in Samara. So he stepped off the train in Samara and went to a hotel. In the night, he came out to get some dinner. And who was there on the street? That exact same messenger of death was there waiting for him. And he was like, no, my fate has definitely come. I cannot outrun it anymore. So he told the messenger of death, but why? Okay, I surrender, I surrender to you and to my destiny. But tell me one thing. Why did you have to scare me like that? Couldn't you just kill me back and back that? Why did you let me cross the whole country? So this messenger said, actually, I wasn't scaring you. I was surprised. That was my surprised face. Because I actually had in my agenda, I had an appointment with you tonight in Samara. And then we get something. Because if that man wouldn't have seen the messenger of death, he wouldn't have gone on the run. And he wouldn't actually have met his destiny. So how much is dependent on our free choice? Can we outrun our destiny in some way? Yes or no? Do we have a free choice? Is the future determined? That are the questions that arise from this example. And that is what we will reveal to you today. And on the other hand, we have the other extreme. And that is that everything is dependent on luck, coincidence. And here to explain this, I have a little riddle for you. So pay good attention because you have to solve a murder now. Once there was a big forest fire, miles and miles of burning forest. There was nothing they could do. But after that forest fire was finally extinguished, after days and days together, they found in the middle of that forest, they found a person. And the person was a man. And with autopsy, they saw that he died out of internal bleedings. But what was he wearing? He was wearing the whole diver's outfit. So he had oxygen tanks on his back. He had a mask, he had goggles, he had a wetsuit on, his flippers. He was like full diving gear. But he died in a forest fire. How is it possible? I ask you, any suggestions maybe? Mastermind. Bert, you have a theory? You always have theories.
Maybe he was from the fire brigade, so with a lot of water around him.
Yeah, but if there's a lot of water around him, there cannot be a forest fire. Oh, and the firemen, they never wear full diving gear, right?
Perhaps he was scooped up by a helicopter.
Oh, yes, you have it immediately. Oh, You are too smart for this. So what happened? This man, he was taking a dive in the Pacific Ocean. And this forest fire was there. So this firemen, they came with a helicopter, they scooped the water out of the ocean and dropped it in the middle of the forest. So the one thing he knows, he's diving, he's looking at the little fish around him, and next thing he knows, he is 100 meters above the air, flying somewhere above a fire, and they dropped him there. So we can't say, is that just bad luck, that he was just at the wrong place at the wrong moment? You know, is it just misfortune that happened to him? So in this way, we can say we have two sides of the paradox. On the one hand, we have determinism, destiny, and that everything happens for a reason. And on the other hand, we have luck. Everything is completely random. So in the yogic and Vedic philosophy, we say these two are on either side of the same coin. And that coin is called karma. And that is what we today are going to demystify for you. We're going to explain the whole science of what karma is and subsequently how we can escape it. And we're not going to do that alone. Actually, I invited a very special guest for us today, all the way from India. It's Nimai Lila Das. Very warm welcome to you.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello. He is the head philosophy teacher of Govardhan School of Yoga in Mumbai, in the Govardhan Eco Village of Radhanath Swami. And yeah, he teaches philosophy there. Very wise. He's internalized this wisdom as well because he's been a monk for 10 years, more than 10 years. So we're very lucky to have him. I followed many courses with him in India, and every time my mouth dropped open more and more. So hopefully that might happen to us as well today. So very warm welcome. Thank you. Thank you that you want to join us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, he will lead us through the whole science of karma. And so we're going to do that through a question answer structure. If you have some questions as well, you can write them down, and in the end we'll have lots of time to ask them. So let us then finally start. So we use that word karma in a very loose sense nowadays. You know, when we make a joke with someone and we laugh at them, and next thing that happens, we fall, or we fall off the stairs or something, they say, ha ha, karma, right? Or we say also, this corona situation is the collective karma of humanity. We hear that a lot. But could you explain to us what is the deeper meaning of the concept of karma in a philosophical context? What is the meaning of the word, and what is the concept behind it?
All right. Wow, that in itself is a very deep topic. So first of all, I think it was our karma that we all meet once again together. So thank you very much for inviting me to this forum and for participating in this wonderful discussion. So yes, this is the big question. The word karma has become almost like a mainstream word. You will find that word coming even in the English dictionary, right? Now, the word in itself has its origins in the ancient Indian language of Sanskritam. And in Sanskritam, the word karma, one of the very popular meanings, is just action. Any kind of an action that we perform is called as karma, right? However, because the traditional societies, the ancient people were so philosophical, they had a vision of looking at things from depth. For them, action just didn't mean the external layer of a physical activity. They wanted to see, is there a layer beyond this physical? So beyond this physical world that we see, is there a subtle layer which is governing these actions? And that is where the deeper meaning, the second meaning of the word karma that comes, which is the first meaning. Remember, we said karma means action, but the word karma has also another meaning, which is a universal law governing all our actions and their consequent reactions. And this is the context in which we heard Celine initiate this whole discussion today, right? So this is the concept that we are trying to understand, because somewhere it challenges a lot of our own understanding of destiny and free will and determinism, right? And as complicated as it might sound, karma is a very, very simple, rational, and to a major extent a scientific concept, right? How do we look at it from an objective way? If you look at the world around us, everything is governed by the law of action and reaction, right? This is fundamental to even modern science, the principle of causality. Everything has a cause, right? Like, for example, when I work out, right, when I do some kind of a physical exercise, so naturally my body starts to heat up. So there is a cause for heating up of my body. When I notice that the sun rises, the planet heats up, right? So clearly there is a cause and effect phenomena in every natural activity that we see. In fact, the entire nature works on this cause and effect. That is why today we have such defined laws of physics, because there is causality, there is cause and effect happening there, right? And this cause and effect involves basically two things, right? There is an action, which is the cause, and there's a reaction, which is the effect. And as we know, the effect then becomes the cause for a next effect. And this is how the whole cycle of nature operates. So clearly we see there is this beautiful cycle of action and reaction and action and reaction, that which is existing all over this world, right? Like, for example, we know that even modern climatologists have found that the temperature along the coast of Australia defines how the rainfall pattern, especially in the monsoon season, these 4 months from June to October is a rainy season in most of Southeast Asia. So how the rainfall pattern in the entire Southeast Asia is determined based on the temperature along the coast of Australia, right? So clearly there is a cause and effect phenomena, an action and reaction phenomena that we are seeing there. Some of you might have heard this term of butterfly effect, how flapping of the wings of the butterflies in some remote part of the world, it directly corresponds with the intensity of the cyclone, the typhoon, the hurricanes that we have, the strong winds that we have in some other totally different part of the world. So we see that clearly in this physical universe, there is a very strong phenomena of action and reaction. So it's only logical to understand we extend this beyond the physical into the subtle aspects of this universe's operation as well, right? And that is where the foundation of this law of action and reaction, or karma, has come into the understanding among the great spiritual seers of the past. Now, when we use this term karma, it may sound, the way it is presented in much of the literature and even the mainstream society, it's presented as if it is some kind of a mystical, intangible, irrational phenomena, a non-mechanistic phenomena, right? And it just happens, or probably there is some a divine godly being who is sitting there and maintaining the accounts, and literally we imagine God being as if he has no other work as our karmic accountant sitting there, right, and taking tally of things. And well, it's not exactly like that. To put it in a very, very tangible and in an understandable way, think of this. Now,
oh no, on the moment supreme. Hopefully he will come back. Right on the essence.
That's called karma.
That is called karma. I think we're not destined to know the answer at this point. Okay, let's see if he comes back. could send him a message. Oh. There you are, on the essence of the essence. You are stuck. Oh, you're muted, sorry. Yes, but please enlighten us.
Sorry. Yeah. So I was explaining that, when you and I, we both eat a mango, and say, for example, a goat also eats a mango, right? But the pulp of the mango, when it goes into our body, it creates humanly organs. It creates, it helps me it is digested by my digestive system. It creates energy into my blood, and that is transmitted to every cell of my body. And the cells of my body, they start rejuvenating into humanly organs. But the same mango, when it is eaten by a goat, it also enters into the digestive system of the goat. It also is assimilated into the bloodstream of the goat. But when the utility part comes, it grows into the form of a goat. Now, if you clearly see it is only the external cause and effect phenomena, I mean, probably I should start bleating like a goat, or the goat should start giving a philosophy class. But we see neither of these phenomena are taking place, right? So what is defining this? From modern science, we understand, we call it the phenomenon of DNA. The DNA within our body defines how everything shapes up within our body. From the traditional science, yes, what is this DNA? This DNA is my ancestral karma. This is where we are demystifying things. This is my ancestral karma. Now let's keep it even more generic. I eat the same mango, right? Bert eats the same mango. I've transformed into an Indianish body. Bert grows into a Dutch body, right? Why again this difference? Because I come from my ancestral karma is genetically coded into my DNA, right? And Bert's Dutch genes code him, tell his body to start evolving in that particular way. So you see, this karma is in short nothing but a memory function which the universe stores, right, at various levels. So DNA is just a physical level. It also happens at a subtle level, right? And these subtle aspects are what we will try to understand in a more deeper essence as our discussion tries to progress. So in short, think of karma as not some outer worldly mystical phenomena. It is just the universe remembering, the memory of the universe with respect to our actions. And like how everything in nature, every action in nature has a reaction, we experience those reactions.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, wow, that's an opening. Beautiful. Yeah, so karma is the memory of the universe almost. And it's that every action that we perform has a reaction. It can be either physical or mental, right? That is in short. But then, of course, the question comes, sometimes we see reactions without actions. For instance, I have lived my whole life as a perfect citizen. I followed all the codes. I've taken care of my body. I've eaten healthy, but then I get a terrible disease. So I get a reaction, but there's no action that precedes that. And other way around also, maybe there is a thief who stole a bank and shot some people, and then he's never found, and he just lives with the money happily on some exotic island. So it seems like he also doesn't get a reaction for his actions. How do we reconcile that? Because another example is that I heard from a friend of mine who's a doctor. He said there is no cause and effect often between, I mean, we know that people who smoke, they are more prone to develop a disease like lung cancer. But there are some people who smoke a package a day and they never get lung cancer. And there are people who don't smoke and suddenly they have lung cancer. So it seems like action reaction, how
right.
is that connected?
Good,
when we don't see
Actually,
the coherence.
this is the logical next question which comes when we discuss karma. So this is a very brilliant question, and this actually extends our understanding. If you think of it, yeah, we just spoke earlier that karma is about action and reaction, but many times we see in our own life or in the lives of others, people going through some really tough experiences for no fault of theirs, right? Why do bad things happen with good people? The popular
that
question.
was the tagline of the course.
Right?
Yes.
That was the whole, exactly the tagline of the course, right? And this is where we need to bring into our system another very important Vedic concept, the concept of eternality of existence, right? Now, the Vedic science explains that here we are going through various life experiences, going through the whole process of aging from the time we are born to the point where we grow, we experience youthhood, and we eventually experience old age and death. But deep down, there is something within us, the deeper essence within us, which is not changing, this non-transforming deeper essence, right? I'll give you a very simple example. Right now, imagine that you look at your own photograph of when you were a small toddler, as a young baby, a little baby in the cradle, right? And now look at your own photograph now. Now, if I were to tell you, right, can you wear the clothes that you were wearing as a young baby? So clearly you will laugh at me, right? But we know it's the same person. That little tiny baby in that photograph and you are exactly the one and same person. Then the question that we need to ask is, who is that person experiencing those little experiences as a baby in a cradle and going through the experiences now as a grown up, and eventually will experience in a old, much older body, right? So the experiencer does not change, right? But the medium through which these experiences are undergone, that is specifically this body and even the mind for that matter, they keep changing. This is where that eternality of existence, which in the Sanskritam it is called as Atman or the soul, that which is not changing, right? That we need to bring into account. So, and it is said that it is this soul, through its journey through these multiple life experiences, it is undergoing this journey of karma. So to put it in short, as the famous expression goes, the saying goes, that we are not human beings looking for spiritual experience, but actually we are spiritual beings somehow stuck with a human experience. And part of what defines that human experience is this karma. So very specifically addressing your question, we see sometimes people living a very just life, but going through some unjust reactions, right? They never smoked anything, any cigarette in their life, but now they're suffering from lung cancer, right? So the law of karma asks the question, well, in this lifetime, perhaps I did not do anything wrong, but what about my last life, right? And we are actually going through a whole sequence of multiple lives, actions and reactions. So look at it from a multiple lifetimes point of view, then this law of karma makes so much sense, right? And this is where, one of the key concepts of Vedic philosophy, therefore, is this concept of karma and reincarnation. And this is even growingly in the modern society, the concepts like reincarnation are slowly being accepted, because there are definitely a lot of unexplained things. If indeed this lifetime's experiences alone are shaping me, then how do we explain child prodigies who at the age of 5 they start playing Beethoven and Mozart, and their parents don't even understand the M of music. They have absolutely no idea about music, and The child, a 5-year-old child, is suddenly playing Mozart, right? So how do we understand this? So we understand that it is these impressions that are carried forward from this past life that are shaping us into this life, right? So yeah, so this is the understanding when we see then people, why bad things happen to apparently not so bad people in this life.
But then, of course, the question arises, okay, then if something bad happens to a good person, we always just say, oh, it was your karma, so it was, you deserved it anyway. Even though we cannot say it now, but you deserved it because your previous life you did something bad. How does that transform that we don't make, it doesn't make us hard-hearted?
Right. Thank you for raising this, because many times this phenomena of karma has been expressed in a very ruthless and cruel way. See, understand that in fact, not just the law of karma, but a majority of these spiritual concepts, they are meant not to judge people, but to guide people. For a rational person, when something bad happens in life, we want rational explanations for the cause of our problem. Otherwise, our emotions just can't deal with that situation, right? Many times, one of the lingering, when any unfortunate incident happens in anybody's life, the first question that we always ask is why? Why me? Right? So this is, I'm sure, and until we find the answer for that why, our emotions cannot develop that strength to move on with our life. Right? And this law of karma, therefore, is that empowerment, is that education that we are getting to get an answer to this question, why? So we need to understand that, yes, I am going through certain past reactions to my past actions, and therefore certain unexpected things or certain unfortunate things have happened with me. However, we should not use this karma to negate someone or demean someone, saying, hey, look, you are going through problems in life, that is your bad karma. That is an extremely cruel way of application of this law of karma. Rather, when it comes to dealing with others, we need to become even more helpful and sympathetic, saying that, oh, seems like you're going through your bad karma, let us work together in getting over it. Or when if we're dealing with our own life, we need to understand that, oh, look, perhaps I would have done something wrong in the past, therefore this person is dealing with me in a certain way. But now I have no control over my past, therefore I have no control over what reactions I'm getting now, but I definitely have control over my present actions, and I can shape my future reactions. So the law of karma can become an empowerment that way, in helping us shape our future rather than ruining over the past. It's a philosophy to help us shape our future.
Beautiful. Wow, nice. Yeah. Another sort of common question that is asked is that, okay, karma, action, reaction, I experience the reactions, they can also come from a past life, but isn't it that when I end my previous life, that also, I end my body there? So don't I start like clean with a new piece of paper? Why do I get negative reactions not immediately with that body or in that life? Why do I have to suffer it now? What is that? What carries that karma along? Okay, yeah. Your every question is only complicating the answers for our audience. So please interrupt me, or we can, if you have any questions later on, please, but I'm going deeper and deeper now. So now first thing we understood is, yes, there is something called as karma. Second thing we understood is there is something called as soul, which is going through the cycle of karma. Now the third concept which we introduce into our knowledge base is, yes, the body in which I performed a bad activity has been destroyed in my past life. Then what is carrying that bank balance, that karmic balance from my last life to this life, right? Imagine when in my last life, perhaps if I was a millionaire, I cannot legally go and claim, even in India where law of karma is
popularly accepted. I cannot go and claim that, hey, look, this was my bungalow, this is my palace, this is my property, this is my car, this is my land. I cannot claim that. Legally, I'm not entitled, even in India, right? So why is the universe giving these reactions to me? How is this karmic bank balance being carried forward? So again, the Vedic philosophy explains that when the body dies, the soul gets transferred from the old body to the new body through a covering, through a carrier called as the subtle body. So we have 3 levels here. One is the physical body, right, that we have, which is what I'm seeing, touching, smelling, the perceivable body, all the organs of my body, which is popularly what we call as body. Then I have my deeper essence, which is my spiritual body. But in between these two, between matter and spirit, there is a semi-physical, therefore the word subtle is used, a subtle part of our existence, which is our mind. It is the mind. Now, mind, we always thought is like the brain, right? No, brain is only the hardware. The software is the mind. And it is the brain, it is the mind, which is like this subtle envelope inside which the soul is packaged. And it is this subtle body which carries the soul from one body to another body. And remember, what does mind carry? Mind carries memories. Mind carries information. And it is that mind that eventually shapes what kind of a body should form. First of all, the mind will decide, based on nature, of course, the mind will decide what kind of a womb I will be entering. And once I enter into the womb, based on my karmic impressions which are stored in my mind, it starts determining, okay, what should be the color of this person? What should be the kind of strength, physical strength that this person should have? How much immunity this person should have? What kind of the entire, that genetic makeup, the DNA is what we are saying, right? All of this, and beyond the DNA, of course, is all the subtle information is carried by the mind. So it is the subtle body, which is what is something that we will keep continuing in all our journeys across multiple lifetimes. So that is, so even though the physical body in which we performed a bad deed has been destroyed in the last lifetime, through the subtle body called as a mind, we store that information and we carry that karmic balance with us in whichever life we enter into next.
But then, yeah, why do I not remember that? What? Because if it's memory from past, right, and it's still somewhere there, but I have no access to that, but still I'm reaping the fruits of that. So how does that reconcile?
Okay, good, right? Yes. So if mind or my memories are what that I remember, right? At least in this lifetime, I do remember, some things that I did in my childhood, and I still remember them. Why is it that I'm not remembering my past life memories, right? Of course, in some exceptional cases, even some people remember that, but even in ordinary cases, right, there are 2 aspects that the mind has. One is at the more surface level are these immediate memories. But beyond this, at a deeper layer, what we have are, at a subconscious layer, what we have are impressions. So there are memories and there are impressions, right? Let me give you an example. I eat chocolate for the first time. I enjoy eating the chocolate. I remember eating the chocolate. But along with that, I'm also creating an impression that, hey, I like chocolates, right? Next time, I again eat a chocolate. I enjoy eating the chocolate. And now that impression becomes stronger.
Marcel.
And
he's practicing immediately.
Right. So then over a period of time, that impression of eating a chocolate becomes so strong. Next time, I may not even desire eating a chocolate. I may just think, what should I eat? And immediately that impression at the subconscious layer translates into a desire at a conscious layer. Let's eat a chocolate. right? This is something that we experience in this own lifetime, one lifetime. Believe it or not, we are actually carrying those impressions across multiple lifetimes. Many times we spontaneously like some things which perhaps we were never exposed to, right? Even as young children. I know it's a very common practice in India that when a child is born, even before they go to school, I'm talking about a toddler, somebody like 6 to 7 month old, right? There is one ceremony where the child is kept in front of multiple items. So there is a pen, there is a book, there is money, sometimes a weapon and things like that, right? Probably a makeup kit, I don't know, without sounding, right? And the child is kept, and it is seen that the child naturally crawls and picks up something. And my mom tells me that when the ceremony was done, my older went many, there was with a gold coin inside it.
Yours
Keep
were
that
stuck.
gold coin.
We didn't hear you.
Oops.
Please repeat.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. So I was saying that when the ceremony was done, my older brother apparently, he crawled past many things that were right in front, went into a silver cup, and inside the silver cup there was a gold coin. He picked up that gold coin. And when the ceremony was done, when I was put through that ceremony, apparently I picked up a pen. So this came so natural at that age. I mean, 6 months. I mean, what would a child of 6 months know? But this was one of the very popular Vedic ceremonies to identify what's the nature, what are these impressions from past life that this soul is carrying. So we see, even in our own life, even as grown-ups, sometimes we are drawn to certain places, we are drawn to certain kind of people, we are drawn to certain kind of music and practices and lifestyles and cultures. Mind, these are all coming from the cumulative effect of all our past life impressions. So that is why even the mere fact that you all are sitting here, I mean, there could be so many things you could be doing on a Saturday morning, on a weekend morning, but the fact that you're sitting here listening to a topic on karma from some prehistoric scriptures itself indicates that there are some strong impressions that you are carrying from your last life, some spiritual impressions, and that's what you're trying to fulfill, like that. So yes, so the idea is that we may not remember all the active memories from the surface, from the conscious memory, but in our subconscious mind, we do have a lot of impressions. And those impressions are that shape us in this life. And that is how that's why I use the term karmic impressions and not karmic memories. Right?
Yeah. So we can all give ourselves a tap on the back now.
Yes. Literally, I mean,
we did it.
Because you have spiritual inclinations, I mean, you're sitting here, somebody would be having inclinations of, I don't know, maybe even becoming a killer or something, and they will end up doing something very ghastly, something unmentionable, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually nice. Jump also to the next topic, because the karma gives us reactions. It can give us, I guess, rather positive or negative reactions. So if we take that example you had as last thing, the killing. So it depends also on context, if something is either good or bad. Like as a human being, when I kill someone, it's perceived as something really bad. But when I kill someone who is already a murderer or a rapist or like for instance, Hitler person, then it is suddenly some good action. Or when a tiger kills a deer, then it is natural. Then it is like not positive or negative. It's just how it is. So the action is killing is always the same, but the context is different. So what determines what is good and what is bad? What is that dependent of?
Okay. So there are two aspects to your question. Because one of the examples you gave is like, for example, tiger kills a deer. Whereas many spiritual texts, they talk about do not kill animals, do not eat meat because it is bad karma. So if it is bad karma, then isn't the tiger always doing bad karma? So first, let's address that question. So now, very clearly it is explained that animals do not undergo karma, whereas only humans undergo karma. This is a very, very important distinction, right? Animals do not undergo karma, whereas humans undergo karma. Why is that, right? Is it some special punishment we human beings are getting? Actually not. It is a special privilege we humans get. Let me explain. Animals are very much driven by their instincts, right? And it is also explained what are these instincts. They're very carnal instincts. Like, for example, the instinct to eat. When a tiger is hungry, it will not see, oh, it's Lent now, so I need to fast, or it is some Ekadashi, I need to fast, right? You'll never hear a tiger ever fasting, right? When the instinct to eat comes, no matter who is in front of it, it just kills, eats it, right? Likewise, to sleep. When an animal has to sleep, it sleeps. It is not going to stay up all night watching the Euro finals. It's only us humans who are stupid enough to spoil our sleep and we wake up and watch football, right? But animals don't do that. When they have to sleep, they sleep. When it comes to expanding their species, that inner drive to expand their species, to reproduce, right? When animals feel that urge, that instinct to reproduce, they engage in that activity. And likewise, that inner quest to survive and fight for protect its dominion, protect its cave, protect its tree, protect its region, right? This is something which animals are just driven by. You'll never see an animal sacrificing, okay, from today you can take my cave. No, they will fight tooth and nail to hold on to their cave, right? Now we humans, right, we have the ability to act beyond our instincts. Our instincts never limit us, right? When it comes to eating, if a human being decides that, hey, I need to go on a diet because, whatever, I'm putting on weight, or I want to do something with my body. So if I need to, or even something very spiritual, like I need to fast today, we have the ability to act against our instinct of hunger, right? We have the instinct to act against sleep. We have instinct to acting against reproduction. We can rise beyond our instinct to fight. We have the ability to rise beyond this four carnal or primitive instincts, right? Because we've been endowed with that higher level of discrimination to act beyond our instincts, as Spider-Man famously says, with great power comes great responsibility. Right? So we have that power to act beyond that is our human special superpower. Every human being has a special superpower to not succumb to their instincts, right? And because we've been bestowed with that special superpower, we are accountable for our actions, and that is where the law of karma comes in, right? Of course, this ability to act beyond our instincts can sometimes make us behave worse than animals. I often give this example that when a tiger is well fed, if it just ate a deer, for next 2 weeks, it will not eat anything. Even if there's a whole herd of deers running around, jumping around, rolling in the grass in front of the tiger will just peacefully look at it. But whereas you and I, when human beings, after I ate for my stomach full, if I'm offered after eating 5 pizzas, if a 6th pizza is offered, you'll say, can I pack it and take it home for tomorrow? Right? Can I save this food for the next 1 year? Right? So we do sometimes act worse than animals, right? So this higher, that freedom to not limit ourselves to our instincts is a special power that we have. That's what makes us different from animals. And therefore, because this power has been given, a certain responsibility in the form of karma also has been given, right? So this is essentially the understanding. Now, what then defines these actions, Remember earlier on, I said that how the entire universe is operating according to a certain law of action and reaction. So the Vedic scriptures explain that even for our actions, there is a universal law called as dharma. Dharma, the word is many times, it has multiple meanings again in Indian languages. Dharma is many times loosely translated as a sense of duty, morality, righteousness, sometimes even as faith, right? But dharma is not any of this. Dharma is basically that fundamental intrinsic our sense of being, a fundamental law which is governing us, which is governing our sense of being and existence, right? So acting according to dharma, the more you act in sync with the law of the universe, the more you will live a karma free life. And that law of the universe is what we are calling as dharma.
Yeah. So maybe it's easier to define then what is the duty or the dharma of a tiger, because he's, it's very clear cut that he needs to survive, he needs to breathe. But then what is the dharma of a human being in that sense? What is our righteous path, or the path that belongs to being human?
Right. So at a fundamental level, dharma is living a life in such a way where we are gradually training ourselves to rise beyond our instincts. Right? I repeat, living a life in such a way that we rise beyond these instincts and inclinations, these animalistic instincts and inclinations, right? At a fundamental level, that is dharma. But when we go a little more deeper, right, the Vedic science explains that the very dharma of the soul, because now we are talking beyond just human beings also, right? Because even human being is just one designation, so to speak, in the entire cosmos, right? The human being is just one species. But if you look at the most fundamental level, that essence, that soul as we define, it defined that the nature of the soul, right, is threefold. It is eternal, it is cognizance or full of knowledge, and three, that sense of eternality or permanence and knowledge, it creates a sense of bliss or happiness. So at a deeper level, realizing this, that Sat, Chit and Ananda, these are the Sanskritam terms for it, very, very popular in many Vedic texts, right? Sat means eternal, and realizing that, hey, in this journey of life, in the journey of universe, my deepest essence, am eternal. I'm just going through these various bodies, various life experiences, various designations, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a woman, sometimes as an Indian, sometimes as a Dutch, sometimes as a human, sometimes as a cockroach. But I, am that eternal being, that eternal life, which is going through all these various life experiences. And because I'm eternal, at my deepest sense, it is not ignorance which is covering me, but I'm full of this knowledge. And with that sense of permanence and knowledge, I'm that embodiment of happiness. Happiness is not something outside of me, but it is something within me. And discovering that inner state of eternal happiness is what is the path towards this dharma. And the Vedic texts take it one step deeper, that this happiness at the level of the soul is experienced by the soul's innate nature to love and be loved. And if you look at it across all species of life, every species, right? I'm talking from amoeba to humans to elephants to, I don't know, to the gigantic blue whale. Every species wants to experience this feeling of to love and be loved. Now you may be wondering, how is an amoeba expressing love, right? The love at a very, very primitive stage is experienced through the desire to survive, self-love. Today, self-love is a whole genre in self-help books in a library or in a bookshop, right? But where is the desire for self-love coming in the first place, right? Self-love at a very, very primitive stage is the quest for survival. When an amoeba, when it is surrounded by some antibiotic, it immediately tries to escape from there because it knows, oh, this particular medicine is going to kill me, right? So at a deeper sense, it is trying to love itself and express its love to itself. But as we become more sophisticated, right, that expression to love and be loved extends to other life forms also, right? And therefore the Vedic scriptures very beautifully explain that this dharma of to love and be loved is best expressed. Now, what is love? Love is not it's not just a feeling, right? Many times in my classes, I say love is not a noun, but it's a verb, right? Love is something that you express through actions, you express through words, right? It is not something that, it's not a feeling that you just sit on it and sleep on it, right? You don't just say, I love you, and then, okay, can you get me a glass of water? Oh, that you get for yourself, right? But that it's expressed through actions, right? And that action of loving service, right? At the most deepest sense, this dharma of the soul is defined as that act of serving, helping, loving someone and helping someone, and especially serving selflessly, is at a deeper essence the dharma of the human beings, right? And it is acting according to that dharma which helps us realize our nature as this eternal, knowledgeable and blissful souls, and rising beyond these instincts of selfish instincts that are driving within us.
Beautiful. I'm not even trying to summarize that. I think that was beautiful. Yeah. So if I live in line with that true purpose of my life, then I will not be caught up by my karma, let's say. But how does that translate to a practical sense? Because I still have to eat, I have to go to the toilet, I have to choose my clothes, where I live, my job. Where do I get the practical tips on how I can live in line with that dharma, or that purpose that I have as a human being?
Right, yeah. Okay, now next, this is the next complicated topic in our discussion now. You keep raising the bar with every question.
Oh.
Yes. So the next aspect, now where do I understand dharma from? That is where scriptures come into play, right? Now, scriptures are not exactly some man-made tenets, okay, some bunch of people sitting down and deciding that, okay, this is what we need to do. It's not like the constitution, the law of a state or something, but rather understand, just like how we said, like irrespective of whether Newton discovered gravity or not, as a phenomenon, it always existed. Likewise, at a physical plane, if there are some laws, at a subtle level also there are some laws which are governing this universe, right? So these laws have been understood and accessed by the enlightened masters of the past, and they have demonstrated it in their own life, and those are what are understood as scriptures. Like, I come from a Vedic context where Bhagavad Gita is one of the very, very popular scriptures, and the Bhagavad Gita talks so wonderfully about, how one should learn to conduct one's life, and how one should learn to live a life in such a way that we minimize our actions that are creating more karma, and we maximize those actions that are helping us get over this cycle of karma. So yeah, so the idea is, self-realization does not mean actually disconnecting from this world, but rather self-realization means engaging with the world in the proper way. When I say accident-free driving does not mean no driving. Accident-free driving means driving perfectly according to the laws of traffic, according to the way the vehicle is to be driven. If you follow the proper manual of that car and the proper traffic rules, then that is called accident-free driving. So many times when people read books of spirituality and they think, oh, now if I have to be karma-free, which means I should stop engaging with this world. No, in fact, Bhagavad Gita itself, if you look at the context, the main protagonist of that book is Arjuna, a warrior, and he has this confusion about his karma, what is the right duty that he needs to do. And he figured out that, oh, I don't want to engage in my duty. But then Lord Krishna guides him saying, no, it's not about, if you don't want karma, does not mean you stop acting, but rather act according to the proper way. When you follow a particular, the right way of traffic rules, then you will not have an accident. So likewise, there are certain rules of life, and this book of life is what these scriptures are. And and it's good that today world over people are going back to these traditional sources of wisdom. The idea is that we read manuals for practically everything. Every little gadget you buy, you get manuals. It's only logical that we got this fantastic gadget called as the mind and body. I'm sure there must be a manual for it, right? So that's what the scriptures are. So yes, so that is where we will learn how to conduct our life.
These are written, for instance, Bhagavad Gita, and we have it very easily accessible for us now, right? In English and Dutch and all. But are there also other scriptures? Is it like the only scripture, or does that same truth come back in multiple ways?
Right. Yes. So the understanding is, so there are scriptures in different parts of the world, according to different context, to different time, place, and circumstance. These scriptures have been explained by these self-realized masters, right? And the beauty of these scriptures are, according to the need and the context and the time and the geography and the history and the politics of the society at that particular juncture, whatever was the most appropriate, it was presented, right? So we see, yes. So if you look at, for example, how across Bible or Quran or the Torah, each of them were presented to people in totally different contexts, right? And the sociological setup that time and the political situation that time was also different, right? What makes Gita a little interesting in that context is the people who are discussing Gita were already so enrooted in this, they were so advanced in their philosophical understanding that sometimes it can become a challenge in reading the Bhagavad Gita, because you are talking about a discussion between, like, imagine there is a classroom happening between two PhD students, and also the classroom happening between, say, two 10th grade students. There's a topic of discussion for sure, but sometimes we really need to raise our bar to understand what this conversation happening between these two PhD students, right? In a sense, that can become a bit of a challenge when you're reading a book like Bhagavad Gita, because it talks about not just the physical level of reality, it talks about the subtle, and beyond the subtle is the spiritual level. So there is physical, subtle, and spiritual. At all these three layers, there's a conversation happening. And that's what makes, personally, I found the Bhagavad Gita to be so interesting in that context. But yes, otherwise, there are scriptures in different parts of the world, each presenting these tenets as presented by these self-realized masters. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, then we arrive, I think, at a point where we've been waiting for also for now. That is where does the question of free will comes in, because if my karma plays out, that means that all the things I did in the past, they determine how I am now, what I feel now, how I think, how I act. I'm constantly a product of the past, and all the things I did in the past, they determine what I decide now and what is coming for me now still. So where is the question of free will in that regard?
Right. Yeah, this is another popular argument that comes up against the concept of karma, because if you look at karma, which basically saying that every experience that I'm going through now is a result of my past, it seems like the whole path ahead is already predetermined. Then where is the question of free will, right? In a sense, karma is straight away challenging free will, but actually it is not that way. karma and free will are two inseparable aspects, right? They are like the two sides of the same coin. You cannot have them independently, right? Like, so as you putting in your word, you said that we are all products of our past, but that does not mean we become the prisoners of our past, right? We are products of our past, meaning that yes, certain actions which I performed in my past have shaped my memories, have shaped my inclinations, have shaped my psychophysical disposition. The way my body acts, the way my mind acts, they may have been predetermined to a certain extent. They may be influenced to a certain extent by my past, but at every moment, I have that ability, I have the choice to make. That is what I said. If you only have a predetermined program, you are just acting based on your instincts like an animal, right? So this concept of lack of free will may be more applicable in the context of animals, but when it comes to us humans, it's much different, because we've been given that superpower to act beyond our instinct, and that is what is called as free will. At every moment you will hear, every time you're succumbing to your instinct or your default pattern, right? There is an inner voice that says, hey, maybe you should not do this, you should do something else. Of course, we don't listen to it many times, that's secondary, but right, if you just continue to act based on your instincts and inclinations, right, then you will see that your expression of free will is something which you're not utilizing. However, yes, we do have that inner ability, right? In fact, if I were to put it in a very, very simple way, think of your karma as your default habits, your habit patterns. Because when we use the word habit, we limit it to just one lifetime, right? But let's extend this concept based on all this newfound wisdom that we discussed today. Think of your habits as something that have been shaped across multiple lifetimes. And I have a particular default response to life situations, which I'm calling as my habitual responses. But these habits are something that I can mold, I can reshape. And in a sense, the fundamental essence of all spiritual practices is rooted in this one principle. We are trying to break the pattern of our habits. In a sense, that is what all the spiritual discipline, spiritual lifestyle is all about. It's about breaking our habit patterns. So yes, we are definitely products of our past, right? But we don't have to become prisoners of our past. I have the ability to rise beyond my habitual patterns, my instinct patterns, my inclinations, and shape a better future. Like that. Yes.
It reminds me of an example that I saw in the class of Chaitanya Charan. He said there was this man who was a fan of Bollywood. He was like always watching Bollywood films and things, and he was singing, and he liked it so much. And every time on YouTube, he would find like nice Bollywood videos and things. And then one day he came to Bhagavad Gita class and he was mesmerized by all the knowledge from the Gita. So now he went to his computer and put on Google, he wanted to write Bhagavad Gita. But when he put the B of Bhagavad Gita, all the things came up, Bollywood this, Bollywood that, Bollywood actor, and then he got so distracted that he forgot his first inclination. So I think in that sense, all these other things that pop up on the screen from our past, that is the product of the past. But we as a free will have to exercise to overcome that. And I think maybe in the beginning it is hard. You have to fight, but slowly that default pattern will also change, and then it becomes like a second nature. So
right.
Nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then of course the big and maybe final question, it's a big one, so you can take your time for this one, is so how do we escape then those habit patterns? How do we escape karma? How do we escape these bad reactions? What is the practical thing that we can take home in order to transform our lives in that sense?
Okay, this is where it all boils down to. This is the grand summary of all that we discussed.
Grand finale.
Yeah, exactly, the grand finale. Yeah. So Yes, so it's some important concepts are best understood through pictures. So I'm going to draw something. Let me very quickly open the whiteboard. So I'm sure you all are seeing this whiteboard here. All right. So let me draw something. So what we studied so far is, yes, here am I, the soul, and this soul is expressing a certain desire, right? Like in this case, my desire to eat, right? I want to fulfill my hunger, right? But then these desires are many times influenced by my past impressions, like in this case, my impression of love for chocolates, and this desire immediately transforms into very specific desire. So the desire to eat translates into very, very specific desire called as I want to eat chocolate, right? Now, in the case of eating a chocolate, it may be a very simplistic thing, right? Like, for example, I want to be a rich man, right? So let that be the desire. So I want to be happy, maybe the soul's desire. But then my impression that, oh, I've seen so much of Bollywood movies where the hero is always this rich guy. So my specific desire translates, I want to be a rich person, right? Now, this is where we need to introduce our last new concept. Because there is a law of karma, there also has, whenever there's a law, there has to be a law controller. So the universe, which acts like this law controller, it checks. It checks for what? It checks in my karma bank balance. Hey, does this person actually deserve to eat a chocolate now? Does this person actually deserve to become a rich man right now? Does this person deserve to answer this question right now? Right? So then, based on this, the universal controller, right, gives a signal, okay, either yes or no. In this case, we'll say okay. And this okay signal is what is executed by our body and mind. And that is what we see externally in the form of action. Right? So in this case, I express a desire that I'm hungry. Because of my past impression, I express a specific desire that I want to eat a chocolate. Then the universe checks, does Nimai deserve to eat a chocolate right now? Okay. Then yes, I pick up a chocolate, I chew it, I swallow it, I digest it, and action has been performed. But this is where things get a little interesting. This action is going to create a feedback, a reaction, which is what is adding to my karmic bank balance. Every action I do is going to create a karmic bank balance, and this karma influences my impressions. This karma creates my, we use the word impression, we can even call it a habit. It creates my habits and impressions, and they end up influencing my future desires. And this is where it seems like I'm caught. So when Celine asked this question earlier, that is there a free will at all? If this karma and these impressions are so strong, sometimes it looks like we are just sucked into those habits. Like, for example, somebody who's going through a major addiction, right? Even though they know that they don't want to indulge with that substance, these impressions of the past are so strong that it dominates over their present desire, and they get stuck in this negative spiral and seems like they can never get out of it, right? So this is in general what is happening. Now we need to find solutions. So where can we intervene? What are the solutions that we can create? So first level solution is at the action level, right? This is where we need to incorporate, these are lifestyle related solutions. Have the proper lifestyle, right? Have a karma free lifestyle. Now this is in itself is a whole topic, like, but I will talk about few simple practical things. Like for example, the food that we eat, right? Try to ensure that the food that you eat involves minimum amount of harm to others, right? In Sanskrit, it is called a sattvic food, right? When I use the word minimum amount of harm, I'm not just referring to, say, cruelty-free food. Harm also means harm to Mother Nature. So if you can, as much as possible, if you can have food which is grown naturally through organic means, then you are enjoying karma-free food or minimum karma food, right? In terms of our product choices, what kind of products are we buying? You know, am I buying products that involve exploiting Mother Nature? Am I using products that are illegally mining and over mining somewhere in some part of the world, and it gets packaged all the way to Europe and gets nice label and is put up in a nice fancy showroom under lights, right? So let's actually be a conscious consumer, right? Let's be a conscious consumer wherein I know the sources of my products. I know it's very difficult, but even if you minimize it, even if you bring it down from 100% to 80%, trust me, it is going to change your life a lot. Because believe it or not, we are many times you may be living a very good, nice lifestyle. You may be having a very good nature. You are very kind to people, but still sometimes we experience that causeless sadness in our life, causeless anxiety in our life. The reason being that it comes from the products that we use. We are actually using a very bad karma products that are perhaps engaging child labor somewhere in China, or maybe coming from the blood of poor innocent Africans somewhere, because their homes are being raided for some chemicals that are needed or some minerals that are mined from their villages, right? So, or even worse, products that are killing animals because they're being tested ruthlessly on them. So at least from our lifestyle choices, if we can be very conscious in terms of what products we are using, right, that in itself is also a very good way in which we can regulate our karma, right? So food, products, right? Another aspect is also, this is a little deeper, just the way we deal with people, right? This is also part of our lifestyle, where we learn to deal with people in the proper way, right? So that to a major extent kind of includes the lifestyle aspect. There are more, but we will limit at this point, right? While this is good, many times lifestyle in itself is not going to solve many problems. We need to address this cycle. Here we address the cycle at the end stage. Here let us address the cycle in the beginning stage itself. And at this stage, we will learn to work on our purpose, our intentions. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Right? Because ultimately, what is this desire? What is driving my desire? Let a higher purpose. You remember when we discussed about dharma of the soul as that element of selfless service, right? We discussed the nature of the soul is to experience that bliss, and that bliss is experienced through to love and be loved. And I said love is a verb which is expressed through that selfless service, right? If the purpose of our actions is rooted in some level of selflessness, right? Then we learn to purify our desires, right? Here we are, through lifestyle, we are purifying our actions. We are regulating, purifying, right, our actions with a sense of higher purpose. We will learn to regulate, purify, rectify our specific desires, right? Now, when I use the word selfless, don't take it to be so extraordinary, like, okay, from today, my life is of sacrifice. No, even in your own, even at home, think about it. Many times we are so unkind to our own families and friends, right? We become very selfish. Okay, it's only my agenda, it's my needs, right? Even just a little extending yourself, right? Helping your mom in the kitchen. Okay, Lillian will be a very happy person today. Right? Or you know, just extending yourself, because ultimately, if you look at it, there is only one problem in this world: selfishness. When all the conflicts, all the war, all the terrorism is just selfishness, or whether you're looking at natural calamities like climate change and pollution and this and that, is again human selfishness to control Mother Nature. Selfishness has just transformed our society into a society of exploiters, either of people or of animals or of nature. And if selfishness is the only problem, the solution is also just as simple: selflessness. Right? Let greed not drive us. Let a higher purpose drive us. Right? So we need to get over this greed-oriented mentality to a purpose-oriented mentality. And when we internally align ourselves, and this takes a bit of, constantly reminding yourself of this purpose. Write down. For example, if you are a dancer, for example, right? Now, as a dancer, at one level, your purpose could be, okay, right, let me earn money and so that I take care of my family and friends, which is very good. You are extending yourself. You're not that you're earning money so that I shop every day, right? That could sound very self-centric. But even if you say, yes, I'm earning money so that, I take care of my family and friends, that's good. You're extending. Perhaps you could say that through dance, I want to spread joy in this world. So now the same activity of dancing, you're not changing your life, you're not changing your profession, you're not changing your action, but to that same action, now you have attached a higher purpose. And believe it or not, purpose gives you fulfillment, not success. I repeat, purpose behind your actions give you fulfillment in life, not the success after you perform your actions. Right? And that was the hallmark of the traditional societies. People were so happy in the past because they lived a life of purpose, and that's what gave them fulfillment. Right? In fact, if you can make purpose as the motivation of your life, even before you perform an action, you're already satisfied. Because you know that, yes, I'm engaging in something powerful, something meaningful, right? Irrespective of what the result will be, you will be fulfilled that, yes, I gave my best effort. Rest is karma. You see, this is the positive application of the karma philosophy, right? So this is where you are now letting your purpose define your responses to life and not the results, right? And of course, there is a third aspect also, where you may have taken some lifestyle oriented changes. You may have written down a higher purpose for yourself, and you paste it on your mirror every day, so that every day after bath you're looking at it and reminding yourself that, yes, this is what I need to do. But you may lack the inner determination to stick to them. Your past impressions, remember, your past habits and impressions can be so strong and overwhelming that they tend to override your purpose. They tend to distract you from these lifestyle changes that you have made. And this is where the third strategy comes in. I need to clean up this mess I created in the past. Right? Like I said, when we said we are product of our past, but we don't have to become prisoners of our past. This is the most powerful among all these three techniques, where I learn to reform, right? Where I learn to create an internal transformation. And this is how best done according to the traditional practices through techniques like meditation and reciting of sacred sounds. Technically, they are called as mantras, right? Just, mindful hearing of these mantras, careful meditation practices, they are so powerful. They literally enter into your subconscious mind and they remove all these past impressions that are constantly disturbing us and distracting us. So this is the third level in which we learn to get over our karma. So these three levels. So if I may were to give a simple formula for it, right? So we will call it as react. It's not react, but react, which means change the way you are acting, right? Resolve. Take a resolve of a higher purpose and reform. So with react, resolve, and reform, with this 3R formula, right, you will be able to get over the big R, the reaction. Karma means reaction, right? So with react, resolve, and reform, we will be able to overcome our reactions, right? So the idea is, as I said earlier, it's not about giving up driving, but it is learning how to drive without any accidents. Because if you give up driving, you will never reach your destination. Because understand, our life is a journey. So I cannot stop acting just as much as a traveler cannot stop driving. So driving is something inevitable, right? And obstacles in driving are also inevitable. There will be challenges, right? Many times when there's a common question that I get, when I talk about these techniques of meditation and spirituality, people come up to me and ask that, oh, does it mean I will not have problems again in my life? Then I reiterate, no, problems will always come. The life challenges will always come. The miseries of life will always be there, but your responses to them are going to change, right? So this is the principle. Problems are compulsory. But suffering due to these problems is optional. So if you follow this 3R formula of react, resolve, and reform, guided by scriptures, guided by spiritually minded people, by experienced practitioners, fellow practitioners, right? Then you will see it is not that these karmic reactions will stop coming, but they will stop affecting you. That suffering because of these problems will go away. And this is the whole idea. In a sense, all spiritual practices, all yoga, meditation practices, the crux is this, that it is a technique by which we learn to drive ahead in this journey of life without causing any accidents and reach our ultimate destination. Okay, so let me come back. Let me close this board now. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I take deep bow. Beautifully explained. Thank you so much for taking us through a whole journey of karma from zero to infinity almost. I thought maybe it's nice to open the floor for questions. I saw there's some in the chat box, but maybe it's nicer if you would like to ask them yourselves. So if you have some difficult questions for Nimai Lila, you can ask them now.
Yeah, probably I think you'll have to unmute them, Celine.
Oh, really?
No,
Oh,
you can unmute yourself. Shall I start with a question then?
yes, please.
Yes, please.
So basically, how is it all linked to the Akasha field? And
Yes.
also the second question is there also not a lot about the future already captured in the Akasha field?
Right. Okay. So now, what exactly is the Akasha field for those of us who are hearing this term for the first time, right? Remember I spoke about these 3 levels of reality. There is physical, subtle, and there is a spiritual. So the subtle level of reality is this Akashic field, right? Which is literally storing everything which is happening on earth, every action that we have done, right? Think of it this way: every mail that you ever sent, right? Though you have sent this mail, and though it is the mail perhaps would have, okay, buy this, sell this, shop for this, go meet this person. These are all actions which are happening in the physical world, but a record of all of this is existing in a server, in the cloud, in the Akasha. Literally, another meaning of the word Akasha in Sanskritam is sky, and sky is where clouds are. So it's so metaphorical. Google, all the internet works on a cloud in Akasha, right? So yes, in the internet space, there's a record of all our life, or at least our virtual life, so to speak. Think of this Akasha plane to be like that, which is a plane of information where all of this information is stored. This is how certain advanced mystic yogis, in their state of trance, they access that Akashic field, they retrieve the information and say, hey, 10 lifetimes ago, this, you did this action, therefore you are going through this karmic suffering now. You do this counter reaction, and that is how you'll be kind of protected or something like that, right? So Akashic fields are there. And for most of us who are not acting very strongly in a spiritual way, not working on this 3R formula that we discussed, it is very natural that we follow the path of maximum probability, which is what these Akasha planes are predicting, right? Like, for example, in India or all over the world, there's this concept of astrology. I'm sure everybody heard about astrology, right? So what is the basis of this astrology, right? It is based on my past action. It is just like saying, let me tell you a story about this. A popular story, some of you might have heard this. So this one time, a not so intelligent woodcutter, right, was sitting on the other end of the tree. Imagine if this is the tree and this is the branch. He was sitting here and cutting the branch. So a passerby came and said, hey, look, you're going to fall. I said, no way. And he actually fell. And this woodcutter ran after the stranger. Hey, you must be a great astrologer. You know future, right? Now, in this case, future was just the path of maximum probability, right? So much of astrology works on that level, where based on our past actions, remember, I said the universe is storing it, and there are multiple ways of getting into it, we'll not go into those details, but there are ways to know this, and based on which astrology gives you a path of maximum probability of your future course of life. However, it is not that we have to stick to that path, right? Like another is a popular joke in India. So this one time a person, he was rushing to office, right? Rushing to work. and he didn't notice, but he actually slipped on a banana peel and he fell down and, kind of fractured his left arm. So then next day, again, while he was running, he notices a banana peel and just, oh no, now I have to break my other hand also. Right? So he doesn't have to go and slip again. Now that he has noticed that banana peel, he can just maneuver around that and save his other arm. Right? So this is where acting on the third level, which is the spiritual level, comes in. When one starts to act at this level, one can rise beyond one's karmic reactions. So in a sense, the Akashic fields will give us the most probable outcome of our, or the path in which we go, but then we don't, it's not predetermined in a sense that we don't have to stick to that. We do have the ability to intervene and make this transformation through a spiritual intervention. Like that. All right.
Great. Someone else wants to ask a question?
Yeah, hello. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just asked earlier about, like, is there such a thing as collective karma? So for example, like, like say for example, one of my parents died, and obviously like the person who dies, I don't know whether they're having their karma, and then also the people who are left behind, are they also going through the same karma?
Right. Actually, Krishna, this is a very correct observation. There is something called as collective karma also. Now to what collective is it applicable? There are different levels, right? Like for example, somebody born in that family or in that particular lineage, in that particular ancestry, we have what is called an ancestral karma. This is what we defined as, for example, your DNA is something which is, what is your DNA? It is basically the heritage of your ancestors passed on to you as their karma is coming down to you as your DNA, right? All the habits, all their body type, it's very common to see. That is why you see there are genetic disorders, like for example, heart disease or diabetes. These are very probable outcomes in a hereditary way, right? So this is ancestral karma. There is also something called as just living in one place, because we are constantly interacting. Whenever a field of action overlaps, there is intermingling of karma, right? That is why you feel comfortable sometimes working with certain kind of people and not so comfortable with another collective of people, because sometimes there could be karmic conflicts, or sometimes there could be karmic synchrony, right? That is operating at a level of your area of residence, or like the village, town, city where you're living. There is also something called as national karma. I mean, like much bigger geographical area, or even like global karma. Like right now, our entire planet is going through a global karma, which is coming in the form of this pandemic, right? So just being citizens of planet Earth, we all are going through a certain karmic reaction. So yes, so this, whenever a field of action overlaps, so then that is where the collective aspect of karma comes in. That is why it is said in the Vedic culture, the ruler or the king or the prime minister or president, the karma of the ruler very strongly affects the citizens and vice versa. So traditionally, if there was climate change, like if there was undue heat or undue cold or floods or storms, the king would be blamed. Now, by today's understanding, if you go blame your president or prime minister, like, what's wrong with you? I'm not controller of weather. But actually, if the king is a very dharmic person, is following dharma, then the citizens will also be happy. So no wonder today the whole world is suffering, because our rulers are right. I'm not saying it. You thought about it. Okay. Yeah. So yes, collective karma is very much applicable, Christina. Yeah.
I think Helene also has a question.
I was thinking, when you are doing in this life, you have bad things. If you did bad things, you were a beggar, not a beggar, a thief or a killer, and that karma is too heavy, and then you commit suicide. Is that the reason that your karma is too heavy?
So your question is that when somebody has performed some very bad activity like killing or someone, and so how is the suicide part connected, you said?
Say it again, please.
How is the suicide aspect connected to this example you were giving?
Somebody has a very heavy life where he did bad things, and at the end he decides to stop this life.
Okay.
Suicide.
The karma is too heavy to bear.
Right. So what kind of pushes someone to such an extreme step like committing suicide? Yes. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, one's karma can become so heavy and intense that when they feel they cannot handle it, it may push someone see, remember, when the negativity of karma also translates into negativity of thoughts. Remember, we correlated karma, our memories and our mind, because mind is ultimately where the karma balance is being carried. So many times it may push someone into that kind of a negative trail. However, suicide is not the answer to solving the problems of one's bad karma, right? It's just like suicide is saying, okay, anyway, there is going to be accident on the road. Let me go and ram the wall or a tree. That is not the way to drive, right? The way to drive ahead is, let me learn how to, let me properly learn driving. Let me go through a change. So these 3 R's that we spoke of react, resolve, and reform, that is the way to get over this particular situation problem. But yes, sometimes people take that extreme step of committing suicide because that negative karma influences such negative thoughts in them. And yeah, unfortunately, some people do that. Yeah, but that's definitely not the answer to the problem.
But I think you have certain abilities, intelligence abilities you need to understand karma. I don't know if that's true, but that's my thought.
Yeah, it is not even just intellectual ability, but it is an intuitive understanding that comes through practice. Like, I'll give you an example of cooking. A new cook has to taste the food to actually know how the preparation is. But an experienced cook, just by the smell, looking at the texture, they know, oh, today the pudding is fantastic, right? They don't even have to taste it. Just by looking at it, they know it, because it's something that comes intuitive to them. So when we adopt these kind of spiritual practices over a period of time, this understanding becomes intuitive, right? Or another example, like an expert doctor, just by looking at the patient walk through the door, they know what is wrong with the patient. A new doctor, a fresh graduate from medical school, will have to ask for, okay, show me your this report, show me your that report, and he will refer to his books and will say, oh, this is your problem. Because with experience in a particular field, some things come intuitively. Likewise, with experience in dealing with these subtle aspects through our spiritual practices, some of these things, they come naturally to us. So when we are going through a certain karmic phase, experienced people know, oh, it seems like, something beyond me is influencing this, which means I need to change my approach towards my solution, right? Towards my approach towards these problems. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Christina raised her hand,
Christina?
Anandini and Anna. Oh no. Someone take the floor. Yeah, you can say who you.
Christina, please go ahead. Yeah.
Can I
I'm
say?
presuming it's a follow-up question, so go ahead. Yeah.
Prabhu, devotees said that Krishna never gives you the more than you can handle. Can you something say about that? Because sometimes they say, oh, I can do, so Krishna takes it back for me. Can you explain something about that?
Right. So when it comes to the life of a spiritualist, right? Now, remember we spoke about, there is this law of karma, a bank balance, a memory, which is kind of motivating me, pushing me in a particular direction, right? Now, when one starts entering into the field of spirituality, right? So this is where we are acting against those instincts, and that is how we are trying to not succumb to our karmic influences, right? Now, when it comes to a very deep spiritual practice, like especially in the bhakti tradition, when one, remember when we spoke about in our diagram, these three things, react, resolve, and reform. In the life of a bhakti yogi, all your actions are centered around Krishna. All your resolves, your purpose is centered on Krishna. All your reforms, all your spiritual practices are centered around meditation practice, centered on Krishna. So when one engages in this kind of a very intense spiritual practice, right? So then it is said literally, Krishna takes charge of one's karmic account. So in such cases, things get a little more complicated. And please listen to this with a heavy heart, especially if any of you are practicing bhakti yoga. This may come to you as a shock. For an ordinary person, if they did good, good comes. If they did bad, bad comes. But in the life of a very intense bhakti yogi, if they do good, still bad may come, because if Krishna decides this person needs to go through suffering so that he will come closer to me soon, then despite all the good you do, only bad is going to happen in your life. Are you ready for that? Only then you start bhakti yoga. Otherwise, don't come here. I'm scaring you. Okay? No. Like, for example, the famous example of Pandavas were such dear devotees of Lord Krishna. But then in the life of Pandavas, literally misery after misery came in their life. Right? So in such case, the whole equation changes and the dynamics change. So at that level, what happens is whatever takes one very quickly closer to the state of perfection, those kind of activities will come. So for such a person, for such a devotional person, there is nothing called as good karma or bad karma. There's only that which is favoring my purification of consciousness, elevation of my consciousness, and that which is unfavorable. That's it. So at that level, actually, this is a good point, Anandini ji, for asking. This is another different tradition in the Indian spirituality, which is called as Bhakti Yoga, where, like here, our approach was very rational, very intellectual. But in this tradition, the Bhakti tradition, the mood is actually going even beyond your intelligence at the level of your heart, where you are surrendering your heart to the object of your devotion. And at that level, you are so surrendered. So surrender is the key there. You are so surrendered that one just makes the purpose of their life the object of their devotion, which means for them, they are not even at that stage, they are not even interested in good or bad. It is that the best you can understand this relationship in this world is through the love of a mother. A mother, even if it's in the middle of the night, she wakes up for the sake of the child. Now, externally, it may be a lot of discomfort, ruining her sleep, her next day work is going for a toss, but still at that moment when she is waking up and feeding the child or cleaning up the child, she is experiencing joy. Now, if you're not a mother, you cannot relate with this, right? But every mother knows that in the middle of the night when she wakes up and feeds the child, she is happy, she is blissful. No mother will ever say, hey, let him starve for the night, I'll feed him in the morning. He's anyway eating enough all day. Right? No mother will ever say this, right? This is the purest form of love you can experience in this world, is that between a mother and a child. Now, multiply this by a zillion times, and that is what this mood of surrender, of the heart, the love of the heart, the yoga of love or bhakti yoga comes in. At this stage, such a practitioner is not even interested in one's own good or bad, but is only interested in the well-being of the object of their devotion. So this is what we see advanced devotees in all traditions of the world. Like, for Christ, for Jesus, it was he loved everybody as children of God, and he was ready to get himself crucified and suffer the sins of others. But if he was thinking about good karma and bad karma, we wouldn't have the Christian tradition today, right? So likewise, you see, such great exalted devotees, even in the Vedic context, Indian context, who have acted beyond their good and their own personal good and bad. So yeah, this is a next level, probably for a later level discussion for us. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes,
Martha?
Anna, please ask your question.
Oh. You say, please.
Yeah, I think Anna had a question, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. It's still related to karma. And I'm just curious if there is like a 0 point, because if you think about all these lives and you speak about one Atma, I'm curious if there once was this kind of 0 point where you started with a blank page and then from there on you start to collect, or if that's completely not the case.
Right. Yes. So the 0 page is when you reach your your ultimate destination, right? Imagine you started a journey. Let's say you start a journey where, say, you want to go to a vacation. Let's say you want to go to Athens, right? You want to see, you want to go to Greece. That's your journey, right? Now, along this journey, you have to do certain things, you have to drive in a certain way, and etc., right? So that as difficult as a journey may seem, when you reach your destination, are you still driving? No. But what are you doing when you reach your destination? You start enjoying the holiday. You start experiencing that state of complete bliss, right? So if life is that journey, then that 0 point of karma comes when you get over this whole cycle of birth and death and birth and death and birth and death. So at that 0 state, life does not become 0, but sufferings become 0, and you only experience ultimate bliss, right? That is the you can say the ultimate aspiration of a spiritualist, to reach that world, to reach that state where one is experiencing that pure happiness and bliss.
But at that moment where we start, is there also a 0 karma point before we sort of put the domino effect into being?
Oh, for that, you have to go back to our previous discussion with Professor Burt, where we had a discussion on time. So in that, so literally we are coming from that state is a timeless state. So when you come out of a timeless state, experience time, and again go back to a timeless state, literally you never lost any time. It may sound complicated, but let's leave it to that. Okay, Christina, you had a question, please.
And then also Marcel after. Yeah.
Hello. I have so many questions, but we won't have time for all of them. This might sound odd, but say, for example, like coming back to the example of killing someone, and the human punishment is jail. Does that count as karma, or is karma like more a spiritual thing, or can another human being deliver your karma?
Yes. Can we be agents of karma if we have been given that accountability? Yes. In fact, remember I said how the ruler or the king was responsible for the citizens. Now, if you look at it from the broader context, each and every one of us, we are leaders in our own rights. Individually, you are leader of your own body and mind. As a family member, you are responsible for your family. As as the eldest member in your family, you are responsible for everyone in your family, right? Or perhaps as a local minister or a governor right? Whatever you have as a county sheriff, you are responsible for that particular village or a county or a town, right? So if you've been given that responsibility, in the Vedic context, everyone, whether one be a parent, a teacher, a guru, or a king, everyone in leadership, what are you leading? You are leading the people under you towards a spiritual journey, which means when somebody is performing bad karma, punishing them is a way of protecting their spiritual journey. Because what this bad karma does, it covers one's spiritual expression. It covers one's spiritual state. It makes you spiritually blind. So when a king or a ruler of a state or a prime minister or a president, when they award a particular punishment to someone in jail, indirectly what they are doing is protecting a person. It is just like if you have a naughty child who's constantly running towards fire, a mother will go put the child in some kind of a sheltered, covered area. So is the mother being cruel? No, mother is protecting the child, otherwise the child is running towards fire and may hurt himself or herself, right? Likewise, when a responsible ruler can sometimes award quote unquote punishment, jail, sentence, etc., they're actually protecting. In fact, not just a ruler or a king, every rules and regulation that we see in the scriptures are actually our protection. They may seem like a restriction, but actually they're not a restriction, they're actually a protection, if you look at it from a spiritual perspective. So with that understanding, we need to look at this subject. All right, Marcel, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering about the aspect of the previous knowledge in our minds, in the subconscious. Are there any techniques to access them? Meditation or hypnosis?
Okay.
And
Now,
would be relevant. That is also
correct. In fact, let's discuss the second aspect because that will answer the first aspect, right? Mm-hmm. What was the biggest goof up you ever did in your life, Marcel?
Oh.
Something that you really regret. Oh, you don't have to say it. I'm sure it must be very, but just try to recall that.
Yes.
Try to recall your biggest regret in life.
I have them.
Right. Now, what if I tell you, I will remind you your worst regrets of your past 100 lives?
Okay.
Will you be able to function as a sane person?
No.
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 So actually, the reason why nature doesn't allow us to remember our past life is because of this. Because believe it or not, each and every one of us, we have done more regrettable actions than worthwhile actions. That's why we are stuck in this human experience, right?
Yes.
So actually, we should be happy that we don't remember our past. At least I don't want to remember my past life regrets. I have enough in this life already, right? So definitely we don't want that. So think of it as a nature's blessing, right?
Yes.
So rather than remembering those exact memories, but they do leave a scar on our subconscious mind, let us learn to overcome those scars through these techniques that we discussed today.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lilian? Is it not working? Wait,
Yeah. Hello. First of all, Nimai, I want to thank you because I found a very beautiful morning. And it's such a lot of wisdom you tell me. It's for me a lot of wisdom that's coming in now. So I have to think about it when this is over. But you did it so beautifully with a beautiful example. So I first want to thank you. Thank you. And my question is now, you talked about Dharma of the soul. And you said you could come in Satchitananda when you live, when you found the purpose of life, you come in Satchitananda. I understand. but what if you can't find the purpose of your life? I think of one thing you told. You said service, selfless service, is the deepest you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the answer, that you have to do selfless service and that then the purpose of your life? Because everyone is different and unique, and everyone wants to do something what comes to him the most at the heart. Yeah, you understand my question?
Yes, yes. Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm not able to realize that goal of Satchit and Ananda, right? So at each and every one of us, we are all different, and we are all at our own different stages of our own spiritual evolution and our spiritual journey, right? So now this selfless service in itself is expressed at different levels, right? Now for a person, may want to express this selfless service through in the domain of action. Classically, that is what is called as karma yoga in the Vedic context, and predominantly across many world traditions, physical action of selflessness is seen as a very high expression of spirituality. Like, for example, we have missionaries all over the world who just dedicate their life in service. For them, it's service to God. Taking care of children of God is a service to God. So they are very elevated, exalted in their consciousness, and they're acting at that level, right? Somebody may want to express it at an intellectual level, right? The same selflessness, one may see, hey, look, if I was born with nothing and I'm going to die with nothing. So why am I getting attached to so many things in between? So let me intellectually understand this and learn to work on some kind of an internal mode of detachment, right? So this is what happens classically for somebody who's approaching the selflessness through an intellectual approach. Somebody may want to approach it in a more devotional way, saying that, hey, look, the highest form of selflessness comes when I start looking at everyone with love, right? Because love is the highest expression of that selflessness. When I really truly love someone, that is when I can genuinely be selfless towards that person, right? Otherwise, there is always some level of selfishness, in our own life. So the idea is, each and every one of us, we want to express that selfless service in different ways. Important thing is, we need to really acknowledge where we are and look at where we aspire. Acknowledgement and aspiration, these are two separate things. Like, I may acknowledge that I am in 2nd grade right now, but my aspiration should be, yes, I need to go to PhD. Now, just because my aspiration is PhD, if a 2nd grade student goes and sits in a PhD class, the student will get so fried out, the student will never ever go back to school or university ever again, right? Or if a 2nd grade student says, oh, I am 2nd grade, I will remain 2nd grade forever, they will never rise up to the level of the PhD. So the idea is, we all are going through our own individual spiritual journeys, and we all are at different levels of our opening of consciousness. So acknowledge first where you are, right? Be true to yourself. You don't have to artificially imitate someone or be somebody else. But at the same time, acknowledge where you need to go, right? So acceptance of where you are will keep you grounded at your present level of spiritual practice, right? Or your own life practice. And at the same time, acknowledging where you need to go will give you that impetus to keep rising higher and higher and higher, right? So this balancing these two, in fact, all your spiritual, in fact, our entire life in itself is going to be like this. Be true to who you are and still acknowledge where you need to go. This is the formula for all walks of your life, whether it's spiritual or material, or you want to work on some improving your finances, or you want to achieve some life goals, you want to achieve some talent in life, right? Otherwise, what happens if you don't accept where you are, the many times what happens is that the competition of people around you, certain social customs, the conformity to others will overwhelm you so much that either you will become fried out, or you will start constantly living a life of conformity and always pretending to be somebody else, that you forget, you lose yourself very soon, right? And that becomes a much bigger problem. So we don't want to lose ourselves. We are trying to discover ourselves. So acknowledging who you are and where you are is a very important aspect that will ground us in our own practice. But at the same time, you also need to keep your motivations steady in where I ultimately need to go, like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nimai.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you.
I think we have a very last question in the chat box of Marietta. She asked, can we trust feelings of pictures we think from previous lives? For example, we feel like we already know someone who we just met.
Right. Now, let me give an example in this regard. Imagine you had a bitter enemy in your last life. Okay. And now in this lifetime, you both are reborn again. And as soon as you see the picture of that person, or you just meet that person, there may be some bitter feelings, some natural bitterness comes. This is the first time you're meeting that person. Okay. You haven't even spoke to them, not a single word. Just the sight of that creates some discomfort within you, and some irritability, maybe an enmity, hostility may come up within you, right? Again, remember, this is your instinct and your impressions driving you. In the past life, maybe that person was your enemy, but in this lifetime, they need not be your enemy. So the point is, it is good to acknowledge, like I said, that what your feelings are towards a person or a situation or an object at a particular moment, right? But at the same time, don't let these feelings alone drive your life. Because remember, these feelings, in a sense, when I say feelings, are these instinctual feelings, are the one that are just the result of your past karmic impressions. But if you continue to act according to that, then you're just stuck in the cycle of karma. You become a prisoner of your karma, right? So even at this lifetime, if you feel that, yes, that person is still very inimical and has some hidden agenda and motives, some negative motivations towards me, then you maintain your safe distance. But otherwise, it will end up into the side of being judgmental. So we don't want to be judgmental towards people, situations, or things in our life, right? So about all these things, there's not just people, even situations. Like certain situations may be fearful, like some people may have fear of social gatherings. Maybe in their childhood or maybe in their past life, some social gathering might have created a bad impression. So now they are fearful of social gatherings, right? But what if, like, this is also kind of a social gathering and it has helped us grow into a more deeper person, right? So not all social gatherings are bad. So if you just stick to your feeling that social gatherings are bad, you may be protecting yourself, but you're also missing out on opportunities. So that is where we need to act beyond those feelings and bring in a sense of discrimination and rationality into the picture, right? And learn to lead our life based on that.
One tiny little extra question coming from Marietta, and then we take that as the last one and then we close it up. She said, if it's like a positive thing, so you know that person from a last life, and maybe we should help that person now, or there's in our karma that we come together in some way and we have to do something for each other.
See, the bottom line is just like, let's go back to our car journey. You saw that somebody else's car is slowing down, or maybe it just broke down, right? So yes, you can definitely tie a rope to your car and put a hook to their car and you lug them along with you ahead, as long as your car does not get overloaded and both of you are stuck, right? So yes, it is good to help others and act according to these feelings. And in fact what you are calling is technically called as compassion. And compassion is such a very, very exalted virtue, very advanced virtue from a spiritual point of view. It comes straight from the soul, right? It's not even a product of our mind and whatever, our learnings in this one lifetime. Compassion, true compassion is a very, very deep spiritual feeling. So yes, definitely we have to cultivate such feelings, right? But we also have to be careful and smart that it doesn't restrict our own journey, right? If it is restricting our own journey, sometimes it, as harsh as it may sound, but you have to sometimes protect your own journey, so that it doesn't mean you're being selfish. What you're essentially doing is you might go a little ahead and tell a bigger vehicle that, hey, I saw somebody stuck at the back, can you please go and help them, right? So that's what you're trying to do. You're not being selfish. Hey, you are going to slow me down, I don't want to look at you, let me drive ahead and race and reach my own journey. That's not what we're talking about. We're just saying, if you really want to help a person, right? Like sometimes imagine a person is drowning, there may be a strong calling within you to jump and save the person, but if you yourself don't know how to swim, then both of you are going to drown. What is the use of that compassion? Better you run away from that place, means externally run away, but go find someone, find a lifeguard, say, hey, somebody is drowning, can you please go and save them? So that would be the right expression of compassion, or those feelings that you're getting to help them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much for this beautiful talk, this journey you took us on. I think I can speak for all that we really enjoyed this, and it was very inspiring, enriching, and I think everyone will be like thinking and molding over all these things the upcoming days. So thank you so much for that. Hopefully we will have some more seminars soon. Would be lovely. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone here for being here.
Yes, thank you all for joining us on this very precious Saturday morning on your day off. We decided to spend time with the discussion. Very grateful that you all could join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nimai. Thank you, Celine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Bye bye.
Hare Krishna.
Everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.